We just celebrated the 30-year anniversary of Megadeth's legendary Rust in Peace album, and I figured what better way to pay tribute than breaking down one of its most iconic moments, Marty Friedman's exotic acoustic break in Holy Wars. Well, hey there kids, it's your good buddy, Uncle Ben Eller. Last week, two very awesome things happened. I had a perfectly good reason to revisit the thrashy glory of Megadeth's Rust in Peace record, and I also happened to get something very nice in the mailbox, this awesome Martin SC-13E acoustic. Those two things combined gave me a little bit of inspiration to make a lesson for you guys on how to play Marty's awesome acoustic break in Holy Wars. It's just a couple seconds long, but it is slathered in Marty Friedman isms, including those cool sliding dyads, his use of chromaticism, and exotic scales. And of course, all those things require that bizarre flipper hand picking technique of his. And on today's video, you're gonna get a note-by-note breakdown on exactly how he does it. And as always, downloadable tabs, backing tracks, bonus lessons, and so much more are available to everybody who supports my channel over on the coolest place on the entire internet, patreon.com/BenEllerGuitars. Don't delay, join today. Gear-wise today, I'm playing this awesome Martin SC-13E acoustic guitar, which features this radical, innovative cutaway here on the back for easy access to the high frets, onboard Fishman electronics, built-in tuner, all kinds of things that are nice. I like things that are nice. And I've got this sexy piece of flat top plugged into my Fractal Audio Axe Effects 3 for a little bit of added reverb and ambiance. And to make my tone even sweeter, I'm using my favorite setting on the DoD grunge pedal, which is off. Snag yourself a good deal on one of these bad boys or any other piece of gear that you need by clicking on the Sweetwater affiliate links in the video description below. First things first, let's hear that lick again at stepdad speed. So one of the keys to the way that Marty achieves this exotic sound in this section of the tune is the fact that he's playing over this kind of E major tonality and mainly basing this lick around the E Phrygian dominant scale. But the cool thing about that Phrygian dominant scale is even though it has all kinds of really mean sounding intervals like the flat 9 in there and the flat 6 and stuff, it's also got all the components that you need to make an E major chord. The root, E, the third, G sharp, and the fifth, B. It just so happens that all the other gaps in the scale are filled in with a bunch of weird stuff. So to start off with, we're going to begin with the E note here on the 9th fret of the G string. We're going to play that note and then the one right in front of it, the F note. After this, immediately play the B note on fret number 12 of your B string. After this, what we're going to do is start walking up the scale. On the B string here, I'm playing A, B, and C, or frets 10, 12, and 13. Then play this D sharp note here on the 11th fret of the high E string. Now typically the Phrygian dominant scale would contain a D note and not this D sharp note. This adds an extra little layer of exotic chromaticism in because we've already used E and F and now we're also using D sharp. It makes this like really tense sound around that E note to be using the notes that are on either side of it. I guess this would also make this kind of like a derivative of that like Hungarian minor scale or something like that too if you want to get really technical about it. Now after you play that D sharp note, here's where the descending slidey part starts. So what I'm doing here first is to play E, pulling out to D sharp, then I'm going to play the C note on the B string fret number 13, then go back to that 11th fret high E D sharp note, okay? Now I've already used two trademark Marty isms in a row right there, and that is the use of his double downstrokes, which is something that Marty does all the time in his playing. This is really one of the keys to unlocking Marty's style and understanding it. If it's ever a possibility to slide from one string to the next string with consecutive downstrokes, do it, because odds are that's what Marty is doing. So as I walked up the scale right there, I played down, up, down, down, okay? Again, just kind of slipping from the B string to the high E string right there. Do it right here too. Down, down. That's going to set your picking on the right chords to play the next section correctly. Okay, let's play that again. You'll notice on all of these I've got a very specific picking pattern going on that we'll talk about here in a second. But you're going to start off here by playing the E on fret number 12, play the B string on fret number 13, and then play the E again on fret number 12. This is going to be kind of the motif that we follow through here. It's going to be a 3-note pattern, and then we shift to the next pattern. So E, C, E. Next what you're going to do is shift down here to playing 10 and 12 on those 2 strings. So you get D, B, D. Shift that pattern down another whole step. That way we get C, A, C, frets 8 and 10. Move that shape down a half step, down to frets 7 and 9. That way we get B, G sharp, and B. So far we've had... Okay? After this we're going to jump down here to using A and F on frets 5 and 6. Shift that down a half step so you get G sharp and E. Then take it back up a half step to your A and F notes. After this, what you're going to do is to finish off with the B note here on fret number 7. Okay? After you hit that B note, pick it again and slide it to the D on fret number 10. Then back to B. Okay? So it's kind of like you did B, D, B. Then you're going to go here to the A note on fret number 5. And this is one of those moves that makes no sense. Little hammer-on pull-up to a B flat. That's nowhere remotely in the scale, but it sounds cool and unexpected, you know? And then play the F note here on the B string, fret number 6. Then what we're going to do is chromatically approach the E note on the B string by walking up the 3rd, 4th, and 5th frets. Again, some chromaticism right there, just to kind of throw our ears for a loop. But he always lands on his feet. That's the root note of the E that he's playing over at that time. So it's not just random. He's leading you somewhere, you know? After this, what we're going to do is to play C sharp on the G string, fret number 6. Then you're going to play that 4 and 5 on the B string again. Okay, so it's like an odd move. That's one of those ones that I would not have predicted whenever I was figuring this out, but it somehow works. Then what you're going to do is to walk back down to the D sharp, and then check this out. Just a 4-note chromatic walk down the G string right here. 7, 6, 5, 4. Okay? I'll play that section again because this is kind of confusing. Then we're going to grab 1 note here on the D string, fret number 7, the A note. And then we're going to play the 5 and then the 4 on the G. So whenever you hit this D string fret number 7, be sure you do that as a downstroke, another downstroke here, then an upstroke here on the 4th fret G string. Play all that chromatic stuff again. Down, down. And then what we're going to do is to walk down the D, go down to the 3rd fret, and then go down to the 2nd fret. Okay? So that full bit of chromaticism right there is just walking from 7 to 2 on the D string. After that, just strum yourself a good old-fashioned E major chord. So we start off here in the 9th position. Our double downstroke diads. Say that 3 times fast. Then the weird chromatic stuff. And that is all there is to it. Now, I think the original was played on like a nylon string guitar, which is really cool. But if you got yourself a nice old steel string flat top like this Martin right here, it's gonna do just fine. As with most economy picking licks, the challenge here is slowing your pick down enough, because it's so easy to just slip through the strings like that as you're doing these double downstrokes that are such an integral part of Marty's playing. I recommend taking this nice and slow with your metronome at first, even though the recording is kind of free time. That way you can just learn how to kind of control those consecutive double downstrokes. Just practice this as like slow triplets so you can really get in the groove and get control of that picking hand. Now those double downstrokes are such a hallmark of Marty's playing, and a lot of that is due to the fact that he holds his picking hand in a really unorthodox way. This is one of those like great mysteries of metal shredding. why does Marty play with his hand in that really peculiar fashion? I've heard Marty himself say that if he could go back in time and relearn guitar, he would not learn how to play this way because it holds him back from doing certain things. But it allows him to do some really, really amazing stuff. It's like, even though this picking style is kind of limited in some regards, he's figured out how to strategize his licks and stuff to make the absolute most out of it. And Marty's ability to play to his strengths is what makes him such an incredible player. Anybody that's watched my channel for a while knows that I've talked extensively about downwards pick slanting, which is that picking style where your downstroke kind of goes into the strings and your upstroke kind of pops out. Marty is among the most extreme downward pick slanting players that there is, finding himself among the company of Stack Mild, Yin Yang Milkshake, Soft Hair Band Jacket, and more. And when you play with such an extreme downward pick slanting angle as Marty does, it allows you to change strings really easily after upstrokes because his upstroke is very much in the air above the strings like that. Meanwhile, it's really easy for him to play licks like this, licks where your downstroke kind of slides off of two strings because his pick is naturally kind of angled like this. It's like having a paintbrush that's permanently angled, kind of pointing up like that. You'd be amazing at painting down the wall and be really bad at painting up the wall, right? You'd have to shift your brush if you're going that way. Marty's paintbrush, as it were, is permanently fixed in one direction. And that's why he's able to play licks like this at such extremely high speeds, is because there's no speed limit to how quickly you can just drag your pick through the strings with consecutive downstrokes. I remember years ago, whenever I tried to learn this out of that god-awful tab book that has been out for so long, I tried learning it and I had so many problems with it because I was kind of picking it in my own natural style, which is more like an outside picking thing, or like alternate picking my way through it. I couldn't do it. Sometimes I see people play this with slides, but that's totally not the right sound. Marty's sound is so aggressive with all those downstrokes and stuff like that. It's not the right sound to play it that way. It's only whenever I started really studying Marty's solos and breaking them down, as I have the past couple of years on my channel, especially learning solos like Tornado of Souls and stuff like that. That's the first solo that his double downstroke approach really made sense to me. And it really changed my playing after that, because I was like, oh, I finally get it. This is how he does it. And if you kind of apply those picking tenets to your own playing, it'll start to make sense to you too. Just be sure that as you're doing these double downstrokes, you don't have to play with like as extreme of a weird picking hand as Marty does or anything like that. Just try to orient your pick in such a way that your downstrokes go in towards the body of the guitar. They're kind of buried in the strings, and your upstrokes kind of pop out, Again, that's what's going to allow you to get that smooth down to down action that I'm talking about. If your pick is really flat, you really got to kind of fight it. It doesn't feel smooth. And then when you try to like pop up out of the strings to start the next lick off, you're kind of stuck in the strings. It sucks. So just be sure that as you're playing these licks to orient your pick in such a way that the downstrokes slide easily from one string to another and the upstrokes pop away from the face of the guitar. It's going to make this a lot more smoothlier and much easilier. If you want another resource to learn more about Marty's technique and his melodic approach and stuff like that, I'm actually going to recommend that you dig deep into the world of Gypsy jazz. Players like Jimmy Rosenberg, Bireli Lagrene, of course Django Reinhardt. All of these players play with a really similar picking style to Marty and also have a very similar melodic approach. It's pretty much all arpeggio based with those guys. Like, they're not very scalar at all with their playing. It's all about the chord they're playing and the accompanying arpeggio and filling in the gaps with all kinds of cool chromatic ideas and passing tones and stuff, very much like Marty does. If Marty's not using a minor pentatonic scale, he's probably not using a scale at all. It's pretty much all going to be based around an implied chord tonality, an implied arpeggio kind of thing. You can see that all over his playing. And again, that's really something that Gypsy jazz players live off of. I've said for years that Marty plays a lot more like a Gypsy player than he does a metal player. And I think once you check out some of those dudes that I mentioned, you're going to find the exact same thing. But the similarities don't really stop there either, because those guys' picking styles and Marty's are oftentimes very similar to each other. There's some of those cats that even have that same kind of like almost like cupping the pick, kind of inverted picking hand kind of thing like Marty does. But pretty much all of them do have the same picking tendencies as Marty too, in terms of they like to do double and triple downstrokes, rarely ever will do consecutive upstrokes. And honestly, I would say the way that I started to understand that sort of gypsy jazz style of picking was from something that my good buddy Emil Wursler, who's just an incredible player in this style, something he told me years ago while we were on tour together. He told me that basically the way that these guys pick is to always begin on a downstroke, no matter what. So it doesn't matter which direction you're going, whether you're ascending or descending through a scale or an arpeggio. If it's your first note on a string, make it a downstroke. That sounds really simple, but whenever you start playing around with it, you start seeing that it does lend itself to these consecutive downstrokes, or leaving on upstrokes like that to do more consecutive downs. These are all things that gypsy players do 24/7, and Marty does them all as well. So if you want to learn from some other players that use this exact same style and get a lot of mileage out of it, like I said, check out Jimmy Rosenberg, Bireli Lagrene. Joscho Stephan is absolutely incredible. The father of the style, Django Reinhardt. There's a wealth of incredible players you should scope out to learn more about what makes Marty's playing tick. Thank you guys, as always, for watching. Be sure to like this video and subscribe to my channel for new content coming at you every single week. And be sure to ring the bell for notifications every time I upload a new slice of fried gold. If you dug this video and want more downloadable tabs, backing tracks, bonus lessons, and so much more, consider supporting my channel over on patreon.com/BenEllerGuitars. There is a ton of exclusive content over there, as well as an awesome community of killer players just like yourself. So be sure to join up this month, even at just the $1 a month level. Start reaping the benefits. And also too, I'm absolutely loving playing this Martin guitar, so if there's any more acoustic stuff that you guys would like to see on my channel, be sure to let me know what it is in the comments. I'm already planning on doing like some Opeth stuff for the very spooky month of October. I've got some Joe Satriani things, some classical things I want to break down on this thing, so if there's a particular acoustic tune that you would like to learn, be sure to let me know what it is in the comments section below. Thanks as always for watching. Now get away from the computer and go play some guitar. Less clicking, more picking.